Hey guys, this is Naren Zade with the Hammer Bros and with Hivemind again. And we're going to do a video response to Paul and Skaven and AZ about luck or skill. So Hivemind, I'll let you go first with your opening comments. What do you think? Warhammer Fantasy, luck-based or skill-based, or what combination of both?
I think it's important first to differentiate between games of chance and games of luck. Something like a slot machine is a game of chance. Something like playing Texas Hold'em is luck. There cannot, by definition, there can't be any skill involved in a game of chance. It's purely random. There's no way to mitigate the randomness. It's pure random. With a game of luck, the object of the game is to mitigate the randomness. And if we're going to define it like that, then yeah, absolutely. Warhammer Fantasy is a game of luck. But your job is to mitigate the randomness and to make the luck count as little as possible. And that's part of what makes it a game. If it wasn't a game, if there wasn't an element of randomness involved, then it would just be we could just run computer simulations and know who'd win every game.
Yeah, that's put really well. I definitely think that by your definition, there's a lot of luck involved no matter what. But on the same token, there's luck involved in everything that you do. In every major sporting event, there's luck involved.
Well, let me interrupt you, because there's a difference between like look at chess. Chess is the one that people like to bring up. There is no randomness in chess. There's still a little bit of luck, because your opponent can not see something or fail to capitalize on an opening you've left them, and that's luck. But it's luck that he wasn't skilled enough. Like chess has this ELO ranking system, and they can very accurately predict, based on your past performance and the past performance of the other players in the chess game, who can win against who's going to beat who any given day. And this is what they base their worldwide rankings on, is this ELO system. Where the luck comes into it is when that falls apart, when it doesn't work out. So you and I play chess, and our ELO rankings say that I should beat you, 90% of the time. And so there's that 1% of the time when it says, that 10% of the time that it says your skill is going to be greater than mine. So if we play 100 games and neither of us screw up, I'm going to win 90 of them in hypothetical magical chess Christmas land. But where luck comes into it is where I screw up and you capitalize on it, and now that's where you can push it past your 10% expected win rate. It's just like Texas Hold'em. It's the same thing, or even blackjack, even casino, single deck, double deck blackjack. There's an expected win rate against the house, and a good player can push that a few percent because there is luck involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think then the discussion is, I think the discussion is almost wrong then. I think it's more, is it a game of chance versus a game of luck?
100% not a game of chance. Not a game of chance.
See, I made the statement earlier that in Warhammer Fantasy, a great player loses well. Like, a great player doesn't get 0 points when they lose. A great player gets 10.
Sure, yeah.
Or possibly 11.
Yeah, you don't get blown out. You learn to see when it's going bad against you, and it works the same way. Your opponent is perhaps getting particularly lucky that day, and your skill comes in mitigating his luck.
Yeah, like when I played Keith in round 3, and spoilers here, I warp lightning cannon Manfred off turn 1. And I only win that game 12-9.
That's a great player.
Right. That's the thing. I couldn't capitalize because of the way he placed his units and because of the unit he had.
Yeah. Not you're a great player. He's a great player.
Right. And the unit he had in play mitigated my ability to win because he knew that I couldn't break through 10 crypt horrors. No
Because
matter what.
if 9 other players got in that situation, they just throw their hands up and get 20-0'd.
Yes, exactly. Like and I think that's something that is what differentiates these chance luck players.
Sure, a casual player doesn't even have that point of view. They don't even think to themselves, all right, well, I'm probably going to lose this, but how do I mitigate this? How do I pull something out of this? I got to look, there's 3 more rounds to play. I've got to try to build up points, not just for this tournament, but I'm trying to save points towards Masters. These 10 points could mean the difference. They don't even think like that. They just think, oh, woe is me.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is really paramount in the game, though, is the ability, though, to turn it around. And I think that that's something that is really interesting about Warhammer Fantasy. In a lot of ways, it's really hard to mount a comeback in a lot of games. Like when you're getting beat down pretty bad, it's a really hard mountain to climb. But in Warhammer Fantasy, the random element to it is also an equalizer in that way. It's not necessarily always bad. In that, you can, I'm playing that Wood Elf guy, game 2, spoilers again, and I void my Grayseer. I don't see that coming, and I have to, then now my game plan becomes I have to go from winning by possibly, 16-4 or 14-6 to I need to not lose, 4-16. And I think that is, and that's just the big test, is your ability to mitigate that or to possibly see that coming and have the backup plan. I mean, okay, if I do suck my seer down the hole, what's step 2? Where's my backup plan?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's really the most important part about it, man. Is just there's not. I think it's so much more skill based than they're giving it people credit for. Because otherwise, if it wasn't skill based at all and it was completely random, I mean, would you see those same? I mean, you've been to 2 GTs now. I mean, how many of those guys did you see that are on the top 10, 15 there that were at the 10, 15 at Crossroads?
That's exactly it, man. It wouldn't be the same dude all the time. And I mean, I've been to 2 GTs, and I already know who the top 15, 20 guys are in the room because they're always up there. They're always playing at the top tables, and I look up and I see them. It's no different in any other game. I mean, I'm gonna fall back on referencing Magic the Gathering because it's what I played a lot of before, this year. And it's, I mean, you think there would be, it's a card game. You get the cards, you shuffle your cards, and you get the ones you draw off the top of the deck. And yeah, I mean, you build your deck in such a way as to mitigate the luck factor, but it's still there. And yet, there's dudes that go pro and win multiple Grands Prix out of fields of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 players. Dudes win multiple Grands Prix and win multiple Pro Tours. Not just one Pro Tour, but 2 or 3 or 4. And not just win them, but they're consistently top 16 and top 8 out of fields of hundreds of players. Man, if it was just luck. My buddy Craig, man, he's been playing Magic competitively for 15 years plus. He would have made it there one time. He'd have been sitting in that chair one time out of the thousands of tournaments he'd played. But, he's not quite good enough all the time, or he makes bad choices and doesn't maximize. I mean, and he's a great player. I mean, he's a great player in our area, in the Central New York area. He's one of the top 2, 3 guys, easy. At one time, 10, 15 years ago, was ranked number 1 in New York State for vintage play, and never made it to top 32 at a Grand Prix. Never made it on the Pro Tour, and not for lack of trying. And he's a great player regionally. So, and there's people who are better at mitigating the luck and skilled play. And it's the same way with Warhammer. There's guys who know every army inside out, who see what you're going to do before you know you're going to do it. They're looking at your board and thinking to themselves, well, he could do this, or he could do this, or he could do this. Which one of those is bad for me? Which one of those is good for me? let me take my turn in such a way as to mitigate the ones that are bad for me and capitalize on the ones that are good for me. This is how I know I'm bad at this game, because I am not able to consistently read that far ahead. My game 5 against dwarves, I mean, I beat the guy. I beat him by a lot, but there was a point where I had my bus, my Gutstar, all the way over 2 inches from his end of the table. I essentially rampaged through his entire army at that point. He had a big block of hammerers and his bus with his dwarf lord and some other stuff. And I had gotten out of his front arc and pivoted my Gutstar so that I was going to be able to get a charge on his bus the next turn, and was not going to get charged by hammerers. And I thought I was real clever. And this dude makes a move I don't even see coming. I've got a unit of man-eaters that's like 15 inches away. He declares a charge. They're in the front arc of his bus. He declares a charge on my man-eaters. Son of a bitch, and he makes it too. Now my Gutstar is sitting 15 inches away, pulling their big ogre dicks with nothing to do. Whereas if I'd thought about that and seen it coming a little bit more, I'd have pivoted them another 45 degrees. And if he pulled that maneuver off, been able to slam in the back of his bus, and that'd have been a 22-0 instead of the 18-2 it ended up being. You know, just little things like that I don't see because I'm not good enough, but other players would see those, the good players.
See, I think that's one of the biggest things that you touched on right there is the little things. Like I tell people all the time, the game starts before you even put your models on the table, man. Like there's a mental thing that's happening, like just with, you know, how you're proceeding with placing things and your, you know, the way you're handling yourself, and then in the game, like just little things, like, you know, do you have spell cards or not? Are you putting your dice on the spell cards that you want to, you know, use? Are you separating your dice during your magic phase? You know, all those things tip a player off on what you're going to do. Or, you know, do you put your books on one side of the table and, you know, not deploy there? Like, you know.
Yeah, I purposefully, I'm very aware of that stuff because we talk about it a lot. And I purposefully now obfuscate that sort of thing. I'll make my dice go in random piles. I'll throw cards out on the table in magic phase I'm not thinking about playing. Yeah, all that stuff. You know, I'll put my books on one side and my dice on the other, and then I'll deploy somewhere entirely else. You know, I'll get myself, you know, real comfortable on one side of the table while we're placing terrain, and then we'll roll and I'll take his side.
Yep. No,
You know,
man, and that could be the difference between winning a GT or not, because now you have the hill for your Iron Blaster, and you know you can hide it behind, and you can snipe out his war machines from behind the hill because he doesn't have one. Like,
yep. No, that it happened against the dwarf player. You know, there was like I got to play dwarves, and there's one hill on the whole table, and he's apparently unconcerned with where that hill, which side he takes. You know, we roll dice, and he wins his choice, and he's like, oh, I'll just stay over here. I'm already set up, and I'm thinking to myself, you're screwed, bro. I got this cannon chariot thing, and there's one hill, and I'm behind it. And, you know, spoiler alert for me, my cannon crept out around the side of this hill and like sliced the pie like he was a Marine in Afghanistan, and like exposed himself just to the great cannon and killed it. And then the next turn, swung around just a little bit more, saw the volley gun, but not the rune chucker thing, killed the volley gun. Swung around, and just because, you know, he didn't seem to care. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll take the one hill, because he's thinking he's not going to hide his war machines behind it because he can't move his and fire like mine. I take the hill anyway. Deny me the hill at least.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I guess I could. You know, it's round 5, whatever. He doesn't care. Nah, man. Nope. Play to the end.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's all those little things that I think add up, and that's the difference between chance and luck and skill. Because, like I said,
chance. There's no way to mitigate chance. There's no way to like. I'm gonna go, and I mean, even like I keep thinking about like casino games. You know, you can play roulette, and there's even strategies for roulette. Like people will tell you that if you can go to a casino enough and watch the what the fuck's it called in roulette? The dude who spins the ball, not a croupier, not a dealer. I don't know, the ball spinner dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certain ball spinner dudes tend to throw that ball if you divide the roulette wheel into quadrants, they tend to throw that ball into 2 quadrants more than they throw it into 2 other quadrants. And we're talking about a couple of percent. We're talking about they're like 52% to 48%. But if you know the ball thrower dude and you watch him throw and you go play his table while he's throwing and everything else is working out right, you can squeeze a percentage out. And in a game like roulette, where it's not 50-50, just playing like red-black, it's not 50-50, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
You can squeeze another percent out. You can get something out of that. So there's an argument there that's not entirely a chance game, but something like a slot machine is. It's entirely. There's no way to mitigate that. There's no strategy. There's no nothing. It's all entirely it's chance. There's no way to change the outcome. So if there's any way to change the outcome, though, you got to look for that angle. You got to look for that percentage.
Exactly, because I mean, if you can get a couple percent out of everything, I mean, and you increase your chances to win by 10, 15%.
Even if you've only increased your chances by 3% over 100 games, that's 3 games you won.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going to play, 5 GTs in a year, 25 games, if you could increase your chances by 3%, well, that's an extra game you won.
Yeah, and
that wouldn't have won before, and that's a big deal. That's the difference between going 5-0, 4-1, between going 4-1, 3-2, one event.
Yeah.
So take every edge, mitigate the luck factor as much as you can. Don't ever get lazy or take it for granted. Always do it, because it's not just about the dice rolls.
No, like I said, and like you said, if it was, then you wouldn't consistently see the same guys at the top. You'd see different guys every time because it's more luck-based than anything.
Different guys every time. It wouldn't make any difference who was a good player and who's not shit. The whole event would be decided by soft scores. Oh wait, spoiler. Sorry.
That's a discussion for Wednesday.
Saving that one till the butter has subsided a little more.
Yeah.
Till the bad feels have. Now we're not even talking about it. What were we saying? Chance of luck.
No. Yep. So I think that's it though, unless you have some closing statements you want to make.
About chance and luck?
Well, just and relating to Warhammer. Like I know that one of our clubmates was talking about having a dragon, and he kept losing his dragon, and how he lost the dragon to the Reign of Chaos table. And to me, that's not luck based. That's you taking a choice that can be single targeted. So if you do play a Chaos player, and then the Reign of Chaos table does go off, and it does get hit by the Wrath of Khorne and a stone thrower comes down on his head, that's a risk you have to assume. That's why I don't play a bell. I could play a Screaming Bell and have this death magic defense, but I don't, because I don't want him to get hit by cannonballs, and instead I don't have a death defense, so I'm choosing the death cannonball, argument. Like Skaven AZ mentioned Reese. Reese brought a skew list, and in my opinion, I don't understand what he was skewing against. He was skewing against ballistic shooting, which is something very few armies really capitalize on. I mean, a spell that hits a unit is going to hit a unit, or a spell that's in an area is going to hit an area. So, I mean, if you Plague Scorch, any Purple Sun, Comet, Thunderbolt, anything.
He's trying to min-max against ballistic skill-based shooting by bringing a skirmisher unit where they're always going to take minuses to shoot because they're skirmishers.
Yeah, and I mean you're running against a small part of the field. It's not like it works against cannons or anything like or organ. I mean, it works against organs, but I mean grudge throwers.
We've talked about this before. It's clearly something like that's clearly like a metagame choice where he feels like he's going to see a lot of like Empire Dwarves, Wood Elves, Dark Elves. He's going to see a lot of that, and that, I mean, given my experiences and what I see on the tables, that seems like a solid metagame choice. But it's probably skewed too far because you're so weak against everything else. It's one thing to make little choices against the metagame, like you not bringing the Screaming Bell, or like I don't bring Lead Belchers because I just don't feel like they're effective enough against the field. Because we're not going to talk about how I've played 70% elf armies where they'd be great. But you make little choices to play on the metagame. Back to a Magic analogy again. You'll change some cards in your sideboard. You don't change your whole deck generally. You play the deck you're comfortable with and the one you know well. Unless you're a pro, Pros are able to change decks like that on the fly because they know them all. But for most players, you don't change your whole deck. You just change a few sideboard cards to give you a little bit of an edge, to get that few percentage points against something you'll see a lot. I could see bringing more skirmishers, but not like, putting your general with skirmishers and shit like that. That seems crazy.
Yeah, I second that. So I think that's it in closing. Anything you have to say?
Camp Hammer.
Is that official yet?
It's gonna be. We're gonna do it. I'll make it go.
Okay. So
I'll talk to him this weekend. I'll have everything solidified this weekend. I'll talk to him this weekend when we're up there.
all right, guys. So minor spoilers or a teaser here. Something called Camp Hammer GT might be happening next year. Who knows? Maybe in Central New York. Maybe ran by the Hammer Bros. But I think that's going to be a different video in a couple weeks or so, maybe. So. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it as always. I'll be posting a whole bunch of videos from the Unplugged GT and possibly some the week after from the local Comic Zone tournament that we do. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good one as always.